Sehdra smelled the giantess even before she entered the throne room. She hesitated at the arched opening as the stench filled her nostrils. The trace of sulphur made her stomach turn, and not only from the stink itself. Sehdra had always tried to make of herself a shadow, one that might disappear into an alcove or corner as soon as she entered a chamber. Most of the servants, slaves, and ministers in the palace aided her in it, wanting to see her as little as she wanted to be seen. But her brother had always delighted in pulling her back into the light.
"Royal sister,"
a voice spoke by her side.
"Sehdra, are you well?"
She produced a smile as she turned to Teti. In her people's eyes, the man was her slave, one of the servants castrated to serve the women of the royal family. But it had been a long time since she had seen him that way. In the 21 floods since he was assigned to her, when she was a girl only just receiving her womanly cycle, Teti had become the brother she had never had.
"Or," she mused, "at least the brother Fist could never be."
Sehdra smiled at Teti, not wishing to worry him. Yet she wondered how ugly she must look as the deformed side of her face crinkled. Teti never seemed to mind. He returned the smile, saying with his eyes what it would be dangerous to utter with his mouth.
"He will not lay hands on you. He will not spill royal blood. He will not tarnish the image of the karah."
Neither were fooled. She knew as well as he that her brother had many ways to harm, beyond words. She had been summoned by the karah and could not delay entering. Drawing in a breath, Sehdra summoned her courage and, with Teti a step behind, walked inside. No matter how many times she visited it, the karah's throne chamber awed her. Golden morning light streamed in through triangular windows lining the walls. Columns framed the wine-hued carpet that bisected the room. Braziers blazed between the columns, making shadows dance, and the murals, expertly brushed onto the walls and columns, come alive. Sehdra knew every story depicted in those paintings. The hunt of Yeshet and Pawura, the creation of the world by wise Ka'ar, the struggles between Red Bek, White Aya, and Black Gazabe. All the ordeals of the divine were drawn along these stones, each a reminder of the insignificance of mortal striving. The room had been designed to draw the eyes toward a single point at the far end. The ascendant throne possessed the same angularity as the rest of the room, the seat as bluff and strong as the power it conferred. Gold and silver lined the stone, and emeralds splayed across the top in a crown. Yet it did not detract from the man who sat upon it, cushioned from its hard surface by pillows, but added to his mystique. Sehdra's eyes did not rest on the karah. Inevitably, her gaze rose to the dark alcove behind the throne. There loomed a greater shadow, hidden but for the occasional glint of jewels and precious metals, silent but for a heavy, thrumming respiration that filled the air with its bitter scent.
"Do not look," Sehdra cautioned herself. "Do not draw attention."
It took an impossible effort, like looking away from a stalking lion, but Sehdra managed it. She continued forward, tottering and wincing each time she put weight on her withered leg. No sooner had she entered sunlight than did her brother call to her.
"Sehdra Okwet,"
crooned Hephaestus, his voice pitched high in mockery.
"Come here, sister. I wish to look upon beauty this day."
As he laughed, the others in attendance followed suit.
"You are cold,"
Sehdra told herself as her face burned.
"You are ice."
She felt every lancing gaze from the guards, servants, and ministers who swayed to their karah's every cruel whim. Shadowed behind the columns, they seemed like the interred bodies of the dead, risen at their descendants' behest, come to join in the debasement of his own blood. But she knew the only bystanders of any importance were the two men to either side of the throne. On her brother's right was his vizier, Zosar of White Aya, the enactor of the karah's will and his principal counselor. Zosar carried himself like a cat through an adoring crowd, every part of him oozing self-satisfaction. His clothes were rich and sun-bright, as if in defiance of the dust that covered the city below. The largest opal Sehdra had ever seen sparkled in the center of his head wrap.